Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Budget Watch Sarawak 2025, live here on TVS. I'm your host, Rashad Ali, and tonight we are going to be diving into all things Sarawak State Budget 2025, as presented and passed earlier today in the State Assembly here in Kuching. Now, joining me tonight, I have a special guest, a panel of esteemed guests to join us for our discussion. On my right here, I have Datuk Jonathan Chai, Secretary General of the Associated Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry of Sarawak. Dr. Jonathan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We also have Puan Audrey Wan Ulok, President of the Sarawak Tourism Federation. Puan Audrey, thank you for your presence here tonight.
Thank you.
We also have Datuk Abang Helmi Ikhwan, President of the Dewan Usahawan Bumiputra Sarawak. Datuk Abang, thank you for joining us tonight here on our program. And finally, we have Datuk Richard Wee, President of the Federation of Chinese Associations Sarawak. Good to see you again and welcome to the show tonight.
Thank you, Rashad.
So if I may start with just a quick preamble about the budget. The theme of the budget this year was Together Building a Prosperous Future. Of course, this is coming off the backdrop of a relatively positive national economic outlook. Things over the last couple of months nationally have definitely seen an uptick, especially relative to earlier this year. Now, this also comes hot on the heels of the federal budget that was tabled in October last month in Parliament. A very people-centric budget, but not without its own controversy. I think as we covered previously, there were some gaps as far as support for SMEs was concerned, for example. Now, thinking about Sarawak, looking at Sarawak here, with Sarawak looking to catch up to other states, while at the same time perhaps trying to realize its own vast potential, the question I would pose to everyone here today, I hope we can kind of get a good discussion out of it, is this the budget going to be the catalyst to continue to propel Sarawak's upward trajectory? So tonight, hopefully, we will cover a couple of key issues, including SME policies and entrepreneurship in the state budget, tourism, social welfare, education, and agriculture. All topics I'm sure we will have a lovely, robust discussion on tonight. Now, if I may, Dr. Richard, begin with you. Sorry for putting you on the spot right at the beginning of our program. But now that the budget has been passed earlier this evening, perhaps I can invite you to give me some of your initial thoughts on the budgets, but perhaps particularly on its support for businesses in Sarawak.
Thank you, Rashad. I think we all know that it is the largest budget for Sarawak ever. And overall, it is an expansionary and inclusive as well as visionary type of budget. With the continuation of expansion on the infrastructure projects to provide connectivity and all the linkage, as well as opening up rural areas, it will help in spurring up the economic activities. Basic utilities upgrading to rural area, including the clean water and reliable electricity. All these projects, apart from providing essential needs, I think it will also have a substantial economic spin-off as well as the multiplier effect on the economy as a whole. The investment in education is another forward-thinking initiative. To provide quality education for all qualified Sarawak students in the international school that was set up with international syllabus, irrespective of financial background or wherever you come from, is to narrow the gap between the rural and the urban divide. Additionally, the provision of the tertiary education, which is free, for all the STEM degrees for Sarawak students, will be another historic initiative. It will also alleviate the financial burden for the family, together with, of course, currently we still have the student loans and scholarship provided by Yayasan Sarawak. All these, I think, are the essential take that I have for the budget.
The point on free tertiary education, I hope that we can come back to that later when we focus our discussion more specific to education, because that's definitely potentially a game changer, I think, not just for Sarawak, but for Malaysia as a whole. If I may move on very quickly now, Dr. Jonathan, we were talking about SMEs, and we see here 3.1 million allocation for SME and business development. Do you think that this is sufficient? Do you think that it will address some of these specific challenges that SMEs in Sarawak in particular will face?
To be honest with you, 3.1 million allocated for capacity building might not be enough to cover a spectrum of the industries. But having said that, 3.1 million is a positive step towards building a more competitive and sustainable business ecosystem for Sarawak. To effectively leverage on the funding, I think we could focus on targeted training, especially for the SME. We could probably look at how to enhance and improve their productivity by adopting the latest technology and AI maybe, and also gaining certification for their expertise and skills to comply with the statutory requirements like CIDB, and also to meet market expectation. In addition, we could also organize programs for SME to keep them understand the importance to comply with the ESG requirement, environmental, social and governance, so that they can have easier access to financing and also to gain wider access to global market for their products and services. About the challenges, we have been entrusted previously under the previous budget. 20 million was allocated, and SPF, Sarawak Business Federation, was entrusted to evaluate and to filter the proposal submitted by our members for utilization of the funding. That was called Business Recovery Fund in collaboration with Mintrade. And in the process, we have learned and are informed of the needs of the business community on the ground. Of course, we also face a lot of challenges, and this include because our towns or cities are distant apart, and when we organize any program, we need to organize in a few places to meet the demand of our members. And also certain qualified consultant or expert, we have to outsource from outstation. And this could means that additional cost involved.
Yeah.
Of course, being a committee in evaluating all the applications, it took us a lot of time and effort. It's a tedious process. Yeah.
Dr. Helmi, if I may move to you very quickly. So similarly on this issue of allocation for SMEs in the budget, do you think that this is enough to support Sarawakian entrepreneurs as they try to perhaps level up and catch up with our Semenanjung counterparts?
Well, we are still behind. A lot of catch up got to do. And definitely, when I look at the allocation here, 3.1 million for SMEs and another 2.5 million for the micro enterprises, definitely I see this, the amount is not enough. It is for the whole state and not Bumiputera. It's not mentioned about Bumiputera in this case.
Yeah.
If it is state, is not. And even for Bumiputera, 3.1 plus 2.5, even this for Bumiputera, I don't think it is enough, because we have a lot of cash up got to do. And what are necessary in this case? We need funding, help from the government, because this is the lowest rung of the business sector. That is the micro, and above macro, we have the small enterprises and then medium enterprises. And our members are actually at the lowest rung. That is the micro enterprise and the small enterprises. So we need help. We need more help from this because they are small. And mainly, for instance, when we talk about micro enterprises, some of these are young people who just graduate, who know how to do things, some knowledge of digital work, and then from there, then they want to start, and they need money. They come from poor family. All the B40 is poor family, hardly enough to survive, and then definitely need funding to start business. Otherwise, they just become workers. We don't want our putra just to become workers. We want them to upgrade and to say startups. We have been hearing about so much about startups. There's meant for the young people to go into business, especially at the digital level, digital sector. Not only that, but also when we talk about micro, it also involves ordinary people, the gerai operators yang jual makanan itu, yang jual pakaian. All these are actually at the lowest rung, and they need to be helped. It's very important because there are so many of them. If we really want to grow the economy, we have to tackle the base, and so that more and more of them participate. Alhamdulillah, at the moment, there are more Putra actually in Sarawak who participate in this at this level, at the lower sector of the business hierarchy. Many of them, but not enough, because when we look at the situation in developed countries, we have to face the fact that we want to be developed country. So if we want to be there, then our strategy got to be towards that. If we just just business like before, we never move. We remain just like that. So we have to change, and we have to gear our strategy towards that level of what we like to be, the whole country like to be, as an industrialized country, as a rich country. With that, kita kena gear lah, SMEs and micro level. With that, in that way. Otherwise, who want to do business, tak ada orang tolong.
Definitely, SMEs as the backbone of the economy. There's still a long way to go, I think, before not just Sarawak, but Malaysia as a whole is ready to participate to that level. Puan Audrey, very quickly, also on this subject of SMEs and SME support, we also see certain initiatives, women's skills training, also skills in general, in other sectors such as culinary, beauty, spa, tourism, perhaps, to supplement and boost household incomes. How do you think chambers of commerce can potentially work together with the government to better support some of these training initiatives so that perhaps it's more comprehensive as opposed to just being a box that we can all tick in our budgets?
Thank you, Rashad. So in Sarawak, the business chambers, the main business chamber would be our Sarawak Business Federation. And under this chamber, this federation, we have the Sarawak Chamber of Commerce, we have the Dewan Usahawan Bumiputra Sarawak, we have the Dayak Chamber of Commerce, Orang Ulu Chamber of Commerce. So they can actually play a very key role in strengthening the partnership between women entrepreneurs and the Sarawak government by acting as facilitators and advocates. So there are various ways this collaboration could unfold to maximize the impact of women's skills. First of all, and also these initiatives in fields like culinary, beauty, spa, cottage industries in tourism like handicraft, homestays. So the chambers of commerce can actually identify training needs and gaps. So we can work closely with government to understand the specific skills gaps that women entrepreneurs face in these industries, the business chambers are in close contact with local businesses, and they can identify the specific skills and gaps, areas of interest and training needs. So this data can then be shared with the government so that they can make training programs that are directly aligned to market demand. And also the training programs can be tailor-made to meet real-time demands in the market. Another way that the Chambers of Commerce can play their role is to create accessible pathways for training. They can do mobile training programs, and they can help raise awareness about the available training opportunities. They can also provide mentorships and networking opportunities beyond formal training that can connect these women entrepreneurs with experienced mentors. And lastly, advocating for policy support. The chambers can also advocate for policies that make it easier for women to access training and development resources. For instance, lobbying for tax incentives or reduce registration fees for women or single-parent women in training programs, or encouraging the inclusion of women-centric entrepreneurship policies within the state's broader economic development strategies. So together in collaboration with business chambers, the government can ensure that these women entrepreneurs have the resources, the network, and the support that they need to thrive, not only in culinary, beauty, spa, and all these cottage industries, but across all sectors of businesses. And empowering women with the right skills would create a ripple effect, benefiting families, communities, and the economy as a whole.
I think that's a very comprehensive approach that we can be taking to ensure that it really is, targeted and specific and helpful, as opposed to just being a bit piecemeal, something that we try to do for the sake of doing. So I appreciate your answer there. Dr. Richard, if I can quickly come back to you. Staying with SMEs, we've talked a little bit here about the potential for digitalization of SMEs in Sarawak. So we see that the budget has a 10,000 Go Digital grant available for MSMEs to purchase digital hardware and software. Is this something that you would think is beneficial to the business community in Sarawak? Is this a pressing need? What are your thoughts on this?
Of course, I think any amount of grant will be helpful to any startups or any, like what Dr. Helmi has mentioned about the micro ones and then the small enterprises. But looking at the current situation, 10,000 is actually not a lot of money. So you were talking about maybe the micro one, as what Dr. Helmi has mentioned. Those are the ones who are the nature of business is a bit smaller, or the gerai or anything like that. Maybe it will be useful, but when it comes to medium enterprise, small, even some small enterprise, this the 10,000 amount is actually not sufficient, because if you're talking about computer, you're talking about software, you're talking about the entire system.
It's expensive.
Yeah, it is not cheap. And sometimes that 10,000 grant would be more useful in other ways, So, but having said that, since the budget has also provided for it, I would say that any assistance and all that would be helpful. But certainly, if you look at it, it is insufficient.
All right, and on that note, we are going to go to a short commercial break. We will be right back with more Budget Watch Sarawak 2025 after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Budget Watch Sarawak 2025. We've been discussing, right before we went to commercial, we were talking about SMEs and the various allocations that the budget has made for SME and SME support. Shifting track a little bit now to talk about some more specific things to entrepreneurship and perhaps also social welfare. Datuk Helmi, if I may begin with you. 2.5 million here has been allocated to Usahawan Micro Kebajikan to support micro entrepreneurs. And here we are referring to OKU, single mothers, widows, disenfranchised, B40. What types of businesses do you think would most benefit from this support? Do you think that this is going to help enable entrepreneurs in Sarawak to thrive?
I think the most promising one actually is the startups. These people who start their business. Many of them can be in the digital industry. It doesn't cost very much to start a digital business. And that's why I like to think of them as also part of the micro enterprise. After all, when we talk about micro enterprise, it's anything with a revenue of less than 300,000 per annum. So a lot of these small businesses actually below that 300,000 per annum. It can be just one person or two person kind of operation. But other than that, other things are also traditional kind of business, also important. Like most of the people, bukan ramai orang yang can go into digital.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people who like to sell food in the gerai-gerai like that, food truck, and selling clothing in the uptown market, that kind of thing. And these are small operations. Usually, I like to think of them as micro because their income revenue level is also below 300,000 per annum. Jadi, this is the kind of businesses that the government got to assist. Bagi grant, give grant to them, or at least they should be given interest-free loan, so that they will not be burdened later on. If they have to pay interest, if they go to the bank, the first things the bank will ask is, what property you have to pledge against this, against the loan. And the banks usually charge high. I don't know exactly how much, at least it will be more than around 5%, like that. There's a lot of cost to the people who start business at the lowest level. So this is the area where the government really got to come in and make it easy. And because we do have experience at TVS, Dewan Usahawan Bumi, we have many members who have find difficulties, especially during COVID-19 period. There's a lot of money announced every day by the government, especially federal government, helping people. I mean, this bank will provide loan, that bank will provide loan facilities. But when our members went to see them, they say the fund is already finished. These are federal institutions. Whether it's really finished, I don't know. Probably they just reallocate it somewhere else. So that we do have a lot of suspicion on this thing, because the people at the level, we do have contact even at the ministerial level in federal. We contact them. I contacted them and discussed with them, and we discussed of their officers. They sound helpful when we have problem.
Yeah.
We provide information to them, but then the thing doesn't filter downward. When our members contact the officers at the ground level of certain banks, they say the money is not available anymore. So this is the kind of things. I think Sarawak government can come in and assist in this case.
Just maybe
ahead.
add on to what Dr. Helmi said. Other countries have also established microcredit kind of agencies.
Financing.
Maybe this is something of which the government can look into it, and they are specializing only microcredit, only to the really small ones. They don't cater for any other companies for which they would normally go to the banking fraternity. But certainly, some microcredit companies that have been established or agency have seen some very successful ones, like the ones in Bangladesh,
Yes, exactly.
the one in Pakistan. All these things can be some model that can be emulated.
Hope to see an expansion of these kind of efforts here, especially in Sarawak. So it's great to see this allocation in the budget. If I can now move on a little. Puan Audrey, I'm talking about micro-entrepreneurship, B40 entrepreneurship. How do you think we can kind of effectively track and measure some of the funds allocated for women in B40 entrepreneurship? I mean, earlier we were talking about certain skills initiatives, and of course, Datuk helped me raise this point about sometimes, especially when it comes to federal allocations, the money is suddenly unavailable. So of course, we do want to be able to track and make sure that these funds are used and spent properly. Any thoughts, any suggestions that I can ask you to offer?
Yes, I would think that before these funds are actually allocated, the government can work with the stakeholders, the chambers of commerce, to establish clear metrics and KPIs that define the success of these policies. So this may include the number of women or B40 entrepreneurs trained. These are the success standards that we can look into. And then the number of new businesses created, the income growth, the job creation, and business sustainability over time. So tracking these metrics regularly would be very important through reports and evaluations to really track the effectiveness and the efficiency of whether these programs are a success or not.
I think one thing that I've appreciated from the Sarawak government in general is there's a lot of transparency and reporting, so I hope that this carries forward when we are looking at measuring the success of some of these programs. I now want to turn to a topic that I'm quite excited about, to be honest, because I know that a lot of you here have some interesting thoughts. Tourism received a significant allocation in the budget. Dr. Jonathan, if I can turn to you for a minute. So there was a significant portion of the budget that was earmarked for promoting events and festivals. What are your thoughts? Do you think that this is something that will positively impact tourism in Sarawak? What are some of your expectations, perhaps?
Definitely. I think this will be a great boost to tourism industry. I just read the paper this morning, in the closing speech of the tourism minister, Yang Berhormat Datuk Sri Abdul Karim Hamzah. He mentioned that Sarawak will serve as a host to 122 business events until end of this year, and will generate total economic impact of 373.4 million, I think. You just look at that figure, the multiplier effect from the allocation of funds provided by the government. And tourism is a sector that can benefit across different strata of the economy, like the hospitality sector, F&B, restaurant, and even the taxi driver, Grab drivers. And I think tourism sector is said to be a very important sector and is vital to economic diversification, and is one of the great contributor to the economy of Sarawak. As far as the expectation is concerned, I think next year, I think they targeted to have 5 million visitors. This is a achievable target, I think. But the shortcoming of the tourism industry of Sarawak is connectivity. We have problems in getting the tourists in. Hopefully, we could provide more direct international flights following the acquisition of Mars Wing. Hopefully, it will come true.
I think that, if an expansion of festivals in Sarawak, if it's anything along the lines of the Rainforest Festival, I am all for that, that's for sure. Pon Audrey, if I may, Datuk Jonathan mentioned the goal of attracting 5 million visitors to Sarawak. Let's think about this in terms of ecotourism, right? What steps do you think the tourism industry can do to meet this target? And how can they collaborate with local stakeholders to enhance these efforts and to expand Sarawak's tourism offerings?
Right. Tourism is definitely a very significant contributor to the state. And as was set, our targets this year were set at 4 million visitors. But already by the middle of November, we had exceeded that. It was about 4.08 million visitors. So for next year, they target 5 million visitors with an estimate of 12.73 billion in revenue from tourism receipts. So I think that this is a very sizable contributor. And of course, the state is focusing on ecotourism. However, as for this year, a lot of funds were spent on events. If you remember, there was the Sukma event, which was a very significant event. And this definitely contributed to a lot of visitor arrivals. So hosting of events, festivals is a very important part of activities that bring in people, bring in visitors, and it affects the whole tourism ecosystem. They come and, of course, they need places to stay. The hotels are filled, restaurants are filled, transport operators, guides.
Yeah.
So it really affects the whole industry. But of course, both the hardware and the software needs to be ready. And we estimate that in the next year, tourism would make a full comeback to pre-pandemic levels. But of course, there are things, as Datuk Jonathan said, things like, for example, connectivity, which has been an issue for years and years and years. But we are happy that at least we will be having our own airline next year. But also we would have to look into our airport, Kuching Airport. Although our Premier has announced that there will be a new airport plan, but that will be maybe not for another 3 or 4 years. But in the meantime, the current airport that we have has to be improved. National parks, which are our very important attractions, a lot still needs to be done to upgrade the accommodation. And I think the budget, we are thankful for a budget of 174 million, the biggest ever we have the tourism industry has seen. So we are also excited that in the plans would also be an expansion to our convention center, because definitely conferences that have been happening during the year, and more than 100 events and conferences in the year. So, and our current capacity in BCCK sometimes is not enough. So we are doubling that from 5,000 to 10,000 capacity. So these are all initiatives that the government is taking, which I think that the Premier he himself, having had the portfolio of tourism many years ago, he understands what we are facing, and he's very forward-thinking and preparing us. There will be also capacity. We have to capacity building our own people, our tourist guides, which we have to train. And thanks to funding which that are available through the Business Federation, we can train more guides. So this is also a very important part of this is our software that we need to upgrade and be ready for the influx of tourists and visitors that are coming.
Can I just ask you very quickly, what sort of role perhaps can associations, or like in your case, the Tourism Federation, what role can they play in facilitating the government perhaps to reach these goals? And also, although you mentioned this earlier, if there's anything we can expand on as far as some of the challenges you mentioned earlier, things like infrastructure and transportation. But if there's anything else that you are able to add in on there.
Yeah, so the Sarawak Tourism Federation works very closely with the Sarawak Tourism Board, which is the marketing arm of the Sarawak government. It's Marketing Sarawak and destination marketing. So we work together very closely with them, and we give them regular feedback on the ground. On some of our tourism products, we do familiarization and product assessments, which are very important to maintain and keep these facilities on par, expecting international visitor arrivals to come in. So we work closely with them, and even with the Business Events Sarawak, which brings in a lot of conferences. This is the bringing in meetings, incentives, conventions and exhibitions. So we work closely with them, and our industry, our stakeholders are working very closely with them. We give them feedback on the ground, and when they organize trade shows to foreign countries, we would tag along with them, and the stakeholders would go. And the tourism board has actually been very supportive of the industry, giving them funding for making the trips overseas. So this is how we would collaborate together with them.
And perhaps very quickly, I think this is mostly more for my own personal knowledge than anything else. Yeah. What are some of the main things that people are coming to Sarawak for? What are the key drivers within tourism, perhaps, that are attracting many visitors year on year?
Well, our focus is culture, adventure, nature, food and festivals. Okay, Kuching is has been given the title of gastronomy city.
Well deserved.
So we've got plenty of foods. So we've got a lot of culinary packages, and of course our famous Rainforest World Music Festival event. And yes, constant conferences that are of interest. It's also good for Sarawak because a lot of knowledge comes in, and this has a strong impact on the whole industry as well. Yeah.
All right, and on that delicious note, we are going to another commercial break. We'll be right back with more Budget Watch Sarawak 2025 after this. Welcome back to Budget Watch 2025 here in Kuching in the TVS studios. I want to now move to talk about social welfare. So this was obviously a big feature in the federal budget. We saw a lot of allocation for cash handout, expansion of a lot of these Bantuan programs. The Sarawak state budget is no exception. We can see here cash handouts for seniors as well as low-income households. Some quick figures I think that I can mention. 500 ringgit cashless medical assistance, 450 million allocated for household incomes below 5,000. And then we also have 800 ringgit for households earning less than 5,000. The list goes on, just to kind of give everybody a bit of a flavor. So Dr. Richard, how do you think that these initiatives can really impact local communities here in Sarawak? How is it going to perhaps help the most vulnerable in our society?
If you remember, I think Sarawak, during the previous budgets, we have introduced many initiatives in the social safety nets. The introduction of Kanyalang cards and all that, for all the citizens above 60 to have all the various facilities for the kind of expanding the social safety nets. This budget, we can see that it is being further expanded. So all these, the figures that you mentioned, are all the additional ones that has been added on. I think with the kind of revenue that the state Sarawak government is able to generate, it is always been the Premier's wish to try to get the rakyat to benefit from it. I actually welcome the kind of social inclusivity. I think it has addressed many initiatives that was outlined by the budget, and then you mentioned a few examples. And the ones that needed help, I mean the B40 and the M40, irrespective of whatever race or creed, are able to enjoy all this. And then, like the recent, just now, the budget, they announced that 1,002 for all the students, irrespective of whatever, whether you are B40 or it is given to all students in studying in Malaysia. And those are all welcome assistance. I think the parents will be very, very happy that will alleviate their financial burden, But the other feature of which I want to highlight is also they are also giving assistance to 10,000 ringgit to first-time house buyer below a certain the income, And certainly these are also assistance that to me are welcome because house prices have been going up, and then no matter what it is, you're always there. Your dream home is always out of reach, So this kind of thing would definitely bring good news to all these first-time house buyer. So I think with that initiative that has been announced earlier in the past budget, and then further expanded here, I mean, I'd just like to borrow a phrase, I mean, it's like the state, our Sarawak government is trying to take care of his anak Sarawak from cradle to grave, that kind of intention is, I think, should be welcome.
Earlier, we were also talking about microfinancing, microcredit, so we can see that this sort of continuity perhaps in some of the state government's initiatives. Do you think that these can sort of contribute to long-term improvements in household income, long-term improvements in social mobility? And I also would like to throw this out to everybody if there's anything that you would like to jump in and speak on.
I remember during the federal budget, I mentioned that the focus on SME were lacking, and I think our Sarawak government has probably saw that as well, so that I think they were given some further assistance. But I think in order to try to give the matter a bit of a stronger impact, more assistance can be given, because to try to develop the SME in many other countries, the developed country, SME is the major engine growth, in the economy of the country. Yes. So if you can try to make the SME sector being a very robust type of economic engine, it will definitely assist the national's economy. I mean, like what Dr. Hamid mentioned, I mean, the kind of statistics, the figure that he mentioned, all the developed country has very high sector, very high section of
That's
the
true.
SME.
That's true.
So if we are able to try to develop that, it will be good for the country.
That's true. And also, of course, we do need to ensure that Sarawakians, Malaysians also have the ability, the purchasing power to be able to participate in the economy as well, of course. Datuk Jonathan, if I can move to you very quickly. We are seeing an allocation of RM 650 million and 420 million for rural transformation projects, and other project rakyat. So with this kind of significant allocation, what sort of metrics can we be using perhaps to assess the success of these initiatives, considering the large allocation?
I think the key metrics to assess the success of these projects, the Project Rakyat and RTP, Rural Transformation Project, could be the number of roads and bridges built or upgraded, better infrastructure, access to clean water, electricities, and also better healthcare facilities. Apart from the physical infrastructure, I think we also need to look at the coverage and the speed of internet connectivity and also digital platform.
Yeah.
I think these are the metrics that we could use to measure. Having said that, Sarawak government have set up 9 development agencies across different parts of Sarawak. To just name a few, Highland Development Agency, Seri Aman, or even the Upper Rajang, Rajang Delta, and also this Integrated Regional Samarahan. And all these agencies are there to direct and facilitate development projects.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think the key metrics to assess the success of these projects would be whether they could effectively enhance and improve the standard of living of the rural population.
Excellent.
Yes. Sorry, Rashid. Just adding on to that, I also believe that improving all the rural connectivity augurs well for tourism. Just as an example, this year and last year during Gawai, which is our very important festival here in Sarawak, we organized Gawai open houses in Betong, and people from the Kuching, instead of everything focusing on Kuching, we actually spread ourselves into the rural areas, and we actually helped to bring up homestays there and develop tourism. And I think that this is very important. We could not do that before. Now more and more interest on fly and drive. People would love to drive and explore various places in the state. And with better infrastructure, this is possible. Yeah, so it's actually benefiting the people in the rural areas.
Perfect.
I just want to add
Please.
to another point. Actually, Sarawak has attained high income status, I think, a couple of years ago, according to the economists of the World Bank. But the average household income is still not up to the par that was targeted by TVS 2030. So I think the project, one of the key metrics would be to look at the household income in the rural population. We have to look at the Gini coefficient and make sure that it is kept below 0.4. I think otherwise, it is no point having the high income status, but we still have poor people in the state. Yes.
May I add in? It is something interesting between when we talk about high income. One is GDP per capita. The other one is household income. These are two separate things. We got to understand that when the World Bank was thinking about GDP, they look at the figure, looks high, so they think Sarawak is already a developed state. But in fact, we are among the poorest, maybe number three poorest when we look at the household income. The problem here is like this. When we talk about GDP, we look at the GDP per capita, that is the production in the state divided by population. Then we have the GDP per capita. This includes a lot of income that's made by Petronas or I think people in the oil and gas industry. It's nothing to do with Sarawak. So it's lumped up together. Then the World Bank, they may not be aware of the situation. So when they look at the figure, they think that we are very rich. In fact, we are not rich. That is not the right figure to look. The right figure is household income. Just in case, for instance, when we look at LNG, Petronas, oil and gas, how many people are actually employed in this sector? Very few.
That's true.
It's a lot of money there, but it doesn't benefit the local people very much. It benefits some. Alhamdulillah, at the moment, our Premier is very smart and try to get something out of it. And he has been successful in getting some of the fund, oil and gas money. And that is why, that is how Sarawak managed to get high
Income status.
Panama expenditure in the in our budget. Otherwise, there's no way to to finance a big budget like this. He has been, and then I think the way it is being spent, that is again strategic. It may not have impact immediately on the household income, but if we continue to finance strategically the various expenditures, the development expenditures, SMEs. In the end, we will move forward faster. That will go direct in the future. That will go direct into the household income of the people in Sarawak.
Just to maybe add on to all the other panelists.
Yes.
I'm talking about this kind of household income or high income for the state. I mean, they are different yardsticks to measure them. But I think our leaders in Sarawak, or especially a Premier, is also aware of that kind of situation. That's why he says that he wants to put money in the pocket of the people. But this kind of thing takes time, And then you're talking about poverty eradication. There must be a baseline. How do you measure? Where do you uplift that kind of income per household in order to say that? I mean, just like what the Chinese did. They are also having some ways to measure how successful they are, or how good they are, or how much they have alleviated the kind of poverty or eradication. So these are maybe something of which the government may want to also have some metrics to see whether how to measure their performance and a kind of KPI, But certainly with all the infrastructure and all the things that has been sort of being invested, it will definitely be a long-term economic spin-off will happen, and we hope that will contribute to the increase of the income from whether it is urban or rural.
Yeah. I think this is an appropriate place for us to segue into a conversation about education. So, Datuk Helmi, let's talk a little bit about TVET. So we've seen 40 million allocated to Centex and Sarawak Education. What economic impact do you foresee from this emphasis on skills training for emerging sectors like green technology, for example?
Yes, definitely. This is a strategic thing from the government move. Centex, by the way, is owned by the state government. State government has a few other institutions also for education, technical education. There are about maybe about 3 or 4, including 4 universities, by the way, where the state government has 5, where the state government has interest, equity interest in these universities. So we are way ahead. Sarawak government is way ahead in education compared to other states. Whereas in other states it's purely federal, but here it is a lot done by the state. And the amount, I have looked at the budget, it is not just 40 million. When we add up other state institutions, just those that related to, like stamp tax, excluding the universities, excluding the schools, the total amount I noticed is more than 100 million. And that is really something very good that the state government has done. But one thing is very important to have maximum impact. There must be close cooperation between the industries and the universities, so that what is taught in the universities are really required by the industries. This is where what they call we have to solve this mismatch problem. Mismatch ini selalu banyak dikatakan di Malaysia ini. But Sarawak, we have to do it in a better way. I don't know whether the government is doing it, but this is where last 2 years our chambers were involved. We were given fund. The Bumiputra, not just for people, there were 3 chambers for Bumiputra. We have Dayak chambers, we have UBS, we have Orang Ulu chambers.
Yep.
We were allocated about 10 million. And then for the whole of Sarawak chambers, that is under SBF, Sarawak Business Federation, they have about 20 million. I hope and I urge the government continue this kind of allocation. It is very important because we have to avoid the mismatch. What we have been doing is in the last 2 years, maybe not yet done in other places, but Sarawak has already started doing it. We collected, we look for the people who are going to study using this fund, the people who are going to be trained. So in our case, for instance, we have many branches. DBS about 13 branches throughout the state. Use our branches to look for people who are to be trained using this fund. So we have trained a lot. DBS alone, we have trained not less than 2,500 students over a period of 2 years. And then the thing is this, we can, it's not just the institutions alone waiting for people to come. If they just wait for students to come, they may be teaching the wrong thing to the students.
That's right.
In our case, what we do, we try, because we have connections with the Bumiputra industries, we ask them what they want, and then we send it. We ask them to apply for this, all coordinated by the UBS. And then we even have a choice where to send them. Sentex is one of the institutions we send them. They are also, SBF also send them to our university there, Swinburne University.
ICATS or something.
ICATS. So we can choose who to send and to send where, because these institutions, they have different, they teach different things. All these things are, in the end, they give certificates of competency. That's important. So when the students study for this purpose, and then they get the certificate, they can be absorbed directly by the industry.
Yep.
And this is where I urge the government take this very seriously, between the, getting the student going to the correct institutions, getting the correct qualification that is required by the industry. In that way, I think we should be able to reduce the mismatch problem that is happening in the rest of the country.
Right.
I-
Yes, we can come back very shortly on this. I don't think there's still plenty more for us to be said here. We need to go to another quick commercial break. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to Budget Watch Sarawak 2025. We were just talking about education. I apologize, I had to
Yeah,
cut you off, Dr. Jonathan. Maybe, yeah, this is a great place for us to pick it up.
I just want to add on to what Dr. Elmi has said. I think this is about the 3.1 million. That's why we need more than 3.1 million to do the reskilling and upskilling. I think in order to train the workforce, which is in demand in the market, I think the government could consider to allocate more money and to business organizations like even TVS or SPF, because we know the market condition.
Yeah.
We are in touch with the market needs. That's why we need to retrain our workforce, like what Audrey mentioned just now. We even organize a program to train the tour guide. These are the areas that we could look at. And even for the Orang Ulu community, we conducted courses on weaving of basket and bag.
Yeah.
And this is a form of income for the rural community.
Yeah. Dr. Richard, I think something else you wanted to add to the conversation.
Well, I'm coming back to the issue of the TVET, basically the vocational type of education. I think that area is something of which we've been talking about it, the government has been talking about it, the federal government has been talking about it, but I think we have not actually seen any significant results when you compare with other countries. I mean, the other countries that I like to try to draw to the attention is that people like Taiwan or even China now, they are also putting a lot of effort. Taiwan has been very successful in this area. You see, they recognize that only 40% of the kind of students would probably be going into the academic side. You know, they can go to become professor, doctors, or other professional. But there is a good part of it who may not be that kind of students. They like to be more hands-on, and they like to do some other things. So over there, our school, we visit Taiwan quite regularly, and these are the things that we learn from them. And they have been very successful because what they do is the universities try to identify this kind of students. And then they tell you that, they guide you that what kind of courses that you should be taking. And what they do is, like what Dr. Hamid said, it has to be working in conjunction or in collaboration with the industry need. So what they do is they have a very close relationship, is saying that, okay, if this university wants to concentrate on electronics, or this university wants to concentrate on production of metallurgy or any other different type of business. They work with the university directly and say that your students come to my factory or my company for internship, for a year out. And thereby, the student can earn some money, although it's not very much. But it got to get a hands-on experience with the industry. And then once they go back to the school again and get the certificate and all that, and they have experience with this kind of industry. And the industry also know this student and whether they are good enough or not, and they are willing to employ them, Yeah. So I think all these things needs a lot of all this collaboration. And the university themselves would need to try to identify which industry that you want to develop, what kind of students that you want to train. I mean, DBS or any other chambers, they have this kind of funding. They can work with the university. The university must be the one who initiates it, so that they are able to identify the students that they want and match it properly with the industry that they require. I think that is something of which is another topic that you can really talk about. But essentially, industry and the school must work together.
Kind of want to change track a little bit, excuse me, and to focus on government support for state-owned early childhood and international education. So, Puan Audrey, do you think investments in international schools perhaps could positively impact Sarawak's appeal by bringing in foreign investors, also bringing in expatriate families into Sarawak?
Yes, I think, Rashad, this, this shows that the government demonstrates a very forward-thinking approach to improving the quality of life of residents and even expatriates here. So improved education infrastructure, the facilities, the assistance will make Sarawak more appealing and for families considering to relocate to Sarawak. So it also strengthens our state's reputation. A better educated local population will lead to possibly more innovative tourism services and development of more creative and sustainable tourism products. So definitely, I think this is a good investment in terms of bringing in these international schools into Sarawak.
And expanding on that, Dr. Jonathan, perhaps what are some specific policies or initiatives that you believe can enhance support, totally different, but for Chinese primary schools and secondary schools within the broader state education framework?
As someone actively involved in education, I think we are blessed, and in this we should be thankful and grateful for the support that we receive from the Sarawak government for their openness and moderation approach towards education. For example, we were the first state to recognize UEC.
Yeah.
And also, Sarawak government has been providing funding for independent middle schools as well as the Chinese primary schools, the SJK Zhonghua. Unlike the independent secondary school, SJK Zhonghua are under the purview of Ministry of Education. And from time to time, we have to deal with a lot of problems, like changes in syllabus, problem in getting approval for the maintenance grants, shortage of teachers, and also problem in getting approval for the building plan for extension and rebuilding, etc. If we were to make any meaningful changes to our education system to enhance greater support for Chinese schools, not only Chinese schools, also for the government schools in Sarawak. I think the best way and the most effective way is to regain our autonomy in education. Let Sarawak come up with our own master plan for the development of education. Don't get me wrong, we are not discarding the importance of Bahasa Malaysia as the national language. We just want to have a more balanced approach towards education so that it's not lopsided.
Sure.
And I think we hope that we could regain our autonomy in education.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have the opportunity to be like what Datuk Jonathan is. He is involved in the primary school. I'm involved in the secondary school, and both sides we have over the years we have encountered different sorts of problems. Although he is taking care of more schools than I do, but different schools have different issues. But like I would like to concur what Dr. Jonathan said. We are very thankful of the Sarawak government's kind of open approach, and they are progressive thinking. They are liberal enough to say that they would like to get quality education. They would like to try to that's why they started the international school. They want to make sure that all these rural school students, with the establishment of international school, they are able to also receive quality education. I mean, I'm also fortunate enough to be involved I've been sitting on the board of Yayasan, which these schools are being developed, and we are helping each other if there is any need that our other schools that can provide any assistance, whether in resources, well, I mean, not financially, but like language teaching, we can always get our students to try, our teachers to try to assist in the Mandarin classes and the mathematics, because generally there is a perception that, well, it's not just a perception, it's actually a fact that the Chinese school students are more excel in the mathematics, you know. That's why this kind of thing of which we are sharing resources, we would like to be able to try to elevate the standards of our schools. So as the government going forward with investing in the education, we feel that that's the right way to go, and we feel that, as what our Premier said, no students will be left behind. You know? And he further, by like what we mentioned just now, for 2026, he is introducing free tertiary education.
Yes.
Yeah. And those are the things of which is going to make a lot of difference, like what you say, in not just Sarawak, but it will give rise to other places to maybe have their own thinking. What should they be doing if they want to try to prevent any brain drain?
The prospect of free tertiary education is definitely something quite intriguing. I wonder if there are any additional thoughts that you might want to. Does this have a lot of potential to be a significant game changer here in Sarawak?
Definitely, definitely. I think it has never been the Malaysian in the history of Malaysia. It has never been like this, you know. And apart from this current 5 university of which Dr. Hamid has mentioned, Swinburne, Curtin, UTS, Santex, and ICATS. These are the 5 ones that which is owned by the Sarawak State Government under Yayasan. They are willing to look at they will roll out on 2026 the STEM courses first, and then as they go along, they will see how do they roll out other courses. But they are, apart from that, they are also actively trying to woo the other famous university outside Malaysia to see whether it's Chinese ones. You know, I think there are active talk about Fudan University, which is one of the top university in China. They say that is the equivalent of MIT. You know? So if they are able to try to get them to set up campus here, again, that will be another plus point or another feather on the cap. You know?
Absolutely. Great potential, definitely, for Sarawak. We are going to take another quick commercial break. We'll be right back with more Budget Watch Sarawak 2025 after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Budget Watch Sarawak 2025. We are going to start talking now a little bit about agriculture and development. Dr. Helmi, this is something particularly interesting. So there's been a lot of emphasis in the budget on precision farming, on agri-tech, on high-tech agricultural parks. How can young entrepreneurs be encouraged to enter the agricultural sector? And how important is a strong agricultural sector for Sarawak?
Yes, definitely we need a strong agriculture sector, but it has to be different from what we have now. We have to go high tech. That's why the government is putting aside quite a lot of allocation for precision farming, high tech agriculture, agriculture park, and all those things. If not mistaken, the government has allocated more than 100 million, all this together. Now it is important because when we go high tech, we don't need too many people to run it. So the productivity of those high tech kind of industries, commercial agriculture, things like that, it will have high productivity. It will be based on run mostly by machines, less manpower, so that the people who run it, they get higher income. Instead of toiling, doing the planting by hand, they can run machines, they can run computer. In that way, things can mesh very well with the rest of the economy. Because when we look at this thing, as Sarawak grow, as Malaysia grow, a lot of people will move from the rural areas into the cities. We have to face the fact that cities are attractive place.
Yes.
So when we grow further into a developed economy, the figure that I have seen, I have observed the figure I like to compare between other countries and us. When we look at, we compare with Japan, Korea, Europe, for instance, US, the people who are living in rural areas are somewhere in between around 15% plus minus. But in Malaysia, it's 25%. There is 10% gap. That means we are still too many in rural areas. That can mean one thing is that those in rural areas are not doing enough work. The productivity is still not good enough because the contribution of the rural areas or sector is not very much. It's not high enough. So people, if they have to move to the cities, okay, what to do? That is the situation. They can be better employed in the cities, especially when we talk about SMEs got to be upgraded. Money investment got to be spent on SMEs. That will upgrade the situation in the cities. I mean, they require more people. The urban migration will continue until just to bridge that 10% gap in the population. So, with this, what do people do in rural areas? They have no choice. They can't go continue with ordinary farming, where it's very much toiling work, got to be done with less income. So it is better to have this high-tech farm, agro-farm, commercial agriculture. Some of this very important, very interesting. As long as the crop can be harvested, can be planted by machine, by computer, why not? Whether it is in macam in dalam house tu, ataupun outside, there are crops that can be planted and can be harvested by machines. For instance, pineapple. Pineapple, easy, memang boleh. And we know that certain type of pineapple harga dia tinggi, boleh di MD2, for instance, can be exported, and foreigners like it. And then another one is rice. Rice, I'm not so sure, but probably I heard that rice, there is a variety of new rice that can be planted 3 seasons. I don't know, but this is what they are talking about, whether it's successful. If it can be done and become successful, why not? 3 cycles. And then with that, the productivity of rice high, and then it bring in better income to the people. And moreover, those who are running the farm, they are not too many. They don't have to do by hand, everything by machines, by computer. So things should be all right if the government spend. I like the way the government planning for this thing, high tech, agro park, and all this. But another thing is this: how Putra will come in. This is where, because they can work. But we don't want Putra to be just workers. We want them to be toke also, to be entrepreneurs. So we have to think, and especially the government got to think how to encourage these young people to go, to move into the rural areas and do this kind of farming. And not just become workers, but also become entrepreneurs in this area.
Like smallholders, they have their own track of, like maybe similar to what can be developed is that the government has a master plan, and then they have the land. Then you allow all these local, whether it's Bumi or non-Bumi, to participate inside there. They have a smallholder, they plant their 5-10 acres, and then there is a collection center, somebody will buy from them, and that kind of, they own it. If they can have good harvest, they can sell it. They know the ready market, so the ministry will be able to buy from them.
Yeah, I like to add something to this one. We have members. I know that members, at least 2 of them, have started the pineapple farming. This is a mini plantation. The first one was they're talking about 100 acres, something like that. Then one starting, maybe I don't know exactly what she is. Dia punya hectareage could be just maybe around 50, 100 acres. These are good enough, and it can be done by a machine. But the first one, I remember, it was started a long time ago. About maybe at least 6 to 7 years ago. But there was not enough support after that. Then he found difficulties in continue with the operation, and maybe also difficulties in marketing it. So this is one area I think the government really got to focus and do something about it, so that people who invest in mini plantation like this can succeed.
Datuk Jonathan, on this targeting of crops like pineapple, shrimp, and cattle, how can ACC-CIS, for example, support its members in exploring agro-business opportunities in these sectors?
I think the important thing is to provide them with the access of information, especially from the government. We have established partnership with government department, like Ministry of Food Industry, Commodity and Regional Development. We even formed subcommittee with them, looking at how to capitalize on the opportunities in agro sector. And in fact, yesterday I brought along 10 of our young entrepreneurs to pay a courtesy call on the Deputy Minister for Youth and Sport and Entrepreneur Development, Yang Berhormat Datuk Lipin Lamat, where he briefed us on the startup program. These are the things that we need to do as business organization. We need to have cross rapport with governmental agency, so that we know that we can keep our members informed of the insight of the direction of the government, and also the opportunities and assistance made available by the government. On top of that, from time to time, we also organize program and also networking events for our members to connect them with experts that can provide knowledge like sustainable farming practice, modern agricultural technique, and export opportunities, and even the supply chain management. And in addition, we also received delegation from our associate chambers from the rest of the country, as well as those from overseas. And in fact, last year we organized a study tour to Hainan Island, China, because the weather there is quite similar to ours.
Yes.
And except that they are susceptible to typhoon and inclement weather. Other than that, the conditions are quite similar. So we went there and looking for potential business matching, as well as keeping our members abreast of the latest technology in agriculture and modernization of farming. And these are the things that we could do for our members. Yes.
May I touch something on what does...
If I may, just very quickly, because we need to now come to a quick wrap up. So if I may invite everyone, perhaps, and Dr. Helmi, you can mention in about a minute or so, just very quickly, your final thoughts on Budget Sarawak 2025. Dr. Richard, we can start with you.
Yeah, I think all in all, the budget is actually had covered all the areas and all the aspects of different sectors. One item of which I noticed is that which is very different from other states and other parts of the country, is that we have this unit called Unifi, and it is a unit for other religion, which I think has got a significant budget to assist all the different religions and all that, whether it's churches, temples, and all that. And I'm sure it is also covered inside the budget somewhere. I am probably under the Premier's office. But I thought it would be a good thing if it had been reflected in the budget, because it will be most probably debated positively, and it can highlight the kind of policy of the government, of which they can do for all the different races. I think that is a unifying and very inclusive type of policy, which could have been inside the budget. But I think, again, my last point is that all the vision of our Premier, all that has been reflected in the budget that they do. But I would like to emphasize, I think that the vision and goal are only as good as if it can be timely delivered, it can be properly executed. That's why I urge that maybe the government machinery or the government agency would probably step up the challenge and accept the challenge and have a better execution to properly deliver the Premier's vision.
Dr. Helmi, very quickly, your final thoughts before we have to wrap.
I want to touch on some of the efforts of the state government in marketing. The state government has set up two agencies in foreign countries, one in Singapore, the other one recently in Brunei. The Singapore is called Status Sarawak Trade and Tourism and Trade Office. And then the other one, Statop, and there's the Brunei counterpart of it. This is to facilitate export of our product to Singapore or to Brunei. I have the opportunity to attend the launching of this, both the one in Singapore and the one in Brunei recently. And I met with some of the Brunei counterpart of TVS, the one of Sound Wimutra in Sarawak. They have the Brunei Malay Commerce Association, something like that. And they are quite excited about it, because some of them are already in business. They're even exporting some agriculture product from Brunei to Dubai, for instance. That's why I can say that they are, when it comes to export, I think they are more forward than Sarawak Bumiputera, because they have no choice.
Yes.
They have to export. There's not enough market in their own country. And they invited us to join in, collaborate with them, where we in Sarawak, we have land, we produce some of the agriculture product, and then pass to them for processing and for marketing overseas. I think that's a good idea, and I hope some of our members, the UBS members, who are close to Brunei in Miri area, region, in Lawas region and Limbang region will take up this opportunity and collaborate with their Brunei counterpart.
All right, thank you, Datuk Helmi. As expected, we have not been able to talk about all the things that we wanted to talk about, but I would like to quickly extend my heartfelt thanks to our panel tonight, Datuk Jonathan Chai, Puan Audrey Wan Ulok, Datuk Abang Helmi Ikwan, and finally Datuk Richard Wee. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight here on TVS. This has been Budget Watch Sarawak 2025. I've been your host, Rashad Ali. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.